If Quaquaval has a million fans, then I am one of them. If Quaquaval has 10 fans, then I am one of them. If Quaquaval has only one fan, then that is me. If Quaquaval has no fans, then that means I am no longer on Earth. If the world is against Quaquaval, then I am against the world. Quaquaval, forever. So, I recently saw this post on Twitter, just randomly scrolling one day, where someone was saying that, notice this with so many of the feminine Startamons, not to mention Quaquaval. People were being straight up homophobic to that Pokemon when Scarlet and Violet came out. And this is a video about, is the Chikorita hate rooted in misogyny? So it's obviously a little bit clickbait and a little bit of an odd title, but this really did get me thinking. Because I was very, very confused as to why everyone hated Quaquaval when Scarlet and Violet was released. Maybe they're actually onto something. After the most recent Pokemon Day, I actually asked people at work which starter Pokemon they were picking, and they all said Totodile. And when I dared to utter that I was going to be picking Chikorita, the looks of disgust on their faces. And before you ask why I'm picking Chikorita, no, it's not for any of the reasons that are going to be in the video that I'm about to show you, but it's actually just because my OG top tier Pokemon in Pokemon Colosseum was my Meganium, believe it or not. My Meganium carried me through everything. My Meganium was a staple back then, along with my Hariyama in my Pokemon Colosseum run, and I have never, ever not loved Meganium since. But back to this video, there is Chikorita hate rooted in misogyny. Just to very quickly go over this, but you should probably watch it yourself if you haven't. They go through the fact that in Gen 2, they sort of designed Chikorita as more of a feminine energy kind of Pokemon, and perhaps that is the reason why a lot of people dislike the Pokemon, along with, not the greatest typing ever, people saying that it's one of the worst starters of all time, yada yada. But fundamentally, I think this may actually boil down to the fact that, it seems that boys, which are the primary audience of these Pokemon games, even to this day, they just tend to pick the more masculine energied sort of creatures, which is a very weird thing to think about in terms of Pokemon. Now, the things that I don't agree with in this video specifically are the fact that it's stated that people need to identify with Pokemon or characters in order to enjoy playing them. And this is something I have never, ever in my life of playing video games wanted or cared about even 1%. And I understand that maybe I'm not in the majority there, and that's why I have such a different viewpoint on what favorite Pokemon or favorite video game characters are, for example. But I find it very odd that people have to identify with a Pokemon or a character in order to enjoy playing them. And just to make sure that I wasn't misunderstanding what identify means, I did do a quick Google with a lovely AI companion that says to identify with something or someone means to feel a sense of connection, understanding, or similarity, often based on shared experiences, feelings, or characteristics. Now, as an Indian man, it may be difficult for me to understand what the perspective of females is, of course, but just coming from my own personal perspective, I am being 100% honest when I say that I cannot understand what any of the dislike is for Quaquaval. So much so that I actually went to AI and many sites to try and understand why people actually dislike my favorite starter evolution of all time, Quaquaval, and in this case, why do they hate Chikorita? Which I don't think anyone's come to a conclusion for that yet, but it may be for a similar reason. So you'll see that I've done some searching, like why do people hate Quaquaval so much? And if we open up this Reddit thread, you'll see so many different sort of answers, but there's one here that says, it makes me uncomfortable the way mascots at amusement parks used to make me feel uncomfortable. And the thing is, I actually had a massive fear of people in big suits when I was a kid, and I can't say I see the similarity. And of course, Reddit's only one part of the internet, so I did a quick search of all these, and it seems a lot of people hate its feet, and people also hate the fact that Quaquaval is very humanoid. But then I think to myself, you hate Quaquaval because it's humanoid. What about Meowscarada? What about I don't know, Greninja, you know, it was the most popular Pokemon as fan voted by like many tens of thousands of people at some point. So I don't really buy the whole humanoid equals bad thing because it doesn't apply to any of the Pokemon from the past or even its own generation. Sassy Duck became person-sized and has huge badonkadonk with idle animation that's weird and won't stop moving. Is it seriously a thing where people don't like that the Pokemon is moving? I actually loved that. In fact, I love it when games actually animate their stuff and it's, you know, it has that vibe. Although maybe it's something to do with I constantly want to be seeing something moving on the screen, so maybe that's my own issue. Here's another video that literally mentions its arse as a reason as to why they dislike this Pokemon. I'm sorry, I didn't realize we were in the year where having a big arse was suddenly a problem again. I thought that that's what we wanted. I thought the bigger the better, but you put it on Quaquaval and suddenly it's a problem? I can't with some of you people, I swear. But in all seriousness, I don't understand what there is to dislike about a Pokemon that obviously is sort of like Sambury, and you can see that vibe, it's going for that vibe, and that's what the Pokemon does. Clearly someone at the Pokemon company thought it was fantastic. I think it is fantastic. And I want to know what the disconnect is between why I think it's so cool and why so many people don't. So to try and give a quickly summarized version of all the pages that I did, I went to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT here says that I said, why do so many Pokemon fans dislike Quaquaval? And they said, 1, unexpected design choices. So they expected him to be a water fighting type inspired by a pirate, musketeer, or even a regal duck. Instead, Quaquaval has a flamboyant, carnival dancer-like aesthetic that some found jarring. So we just don't like carnival dancers, I guess, which, again, I don't really understand why that is. Feel free to let me know. Its exaggerated feathers and humanoid shape make it look more like a costume performer than a powerful fighter, which didn't match some fans' expectations. Except then you have Meowscarada, which is literally just a magician in get-up. So this is the exact same thing, and it still applies to Meowscarada, that apparently people didn't dislike Meowscarada because it looked cool. I'm like, I actually hate the design of Meowscarada, being honest. I had no interest in the weed cat whatsoever. It was just like, she's just got a weird mask on. I don't really care for the cat. You know what I mean? I guess hate was a bit too strong of a word there, but comparatively, if we're comparing the cat to the duck, I would pick the duck every time. And I know I'm a little bit biased. Don't get me wrong. But even if I was not biased for ducks, I would still be picking that other one because it's cool as hell. And the other thing about Quaquaval is that it's actually a really, really good Pokemon to use in the base game of Scarlet and Violet as well. So the old excuses of, oh, well, the reason we don't like Chikorita is because it sucks, or we don't like Meganium because it sucks. Well, Quaquaval does not suck, at least specifically if we're talking about the main story. Aqua Step alone is enough to like full clear a hell of a lot of the post-game fights. I did it myself. I had a full team of birds. Quaquaval was my main man, and he absolutely destroyed everything in that game. And here it says that Quaquaval, by contrast to Skeledirge and Meowscarada, felt like the odd one out in terms of theme and execution. Can't say I agree in any capacity. And then I read this bit here, and it said, they're always subjective designs and people just don't vibe with it, which, yeah, everything's subjective, but why don't they vibe with that aesthetic when I specifically do? I think that's what the question is. What causes that to happen in the first place? And then it says some fans have made memes comparing it to Drag Queen Duck or Weird Carnival Dancer, which further shaped how it's perceived. And again, maybe for political reasons you might have an issue with Drag Queen Duck, but this whole Carnival Dancer thing, I don't see why that is an issue personally. Like, it's just, I don't want to say it's racist, but to just inherently be against carnival dancing vibes in general? I don't get it. Respect. Quaquaval's supremacy. That duck's got style, confidence, and killer moves, literally samba in its way through battles. People can hate all they want, but you can't deny that it brings the most energy out of all the Paldea stars. The Aqua Step animation, flawless. The water fighting typing, strong and unique. That carnival aesthetic, dripping with personality. Quaquaval owns the battlefield in the wrong way. Let the haters stay salty while it dances circles around them. I don't know who it stole that from, but that was fantastic, by the way. And then I did ask it the same thing that I asked you. I said, Chat GPT, both Miascarada and Quaquaval have a humanoid design, so why would this matter when it comes to Quaquaval? Then it said, that's a solid point. Both of them have humanoid designs, yet Quaquaval gets more criticism. Here's why some fans might feel differently. And then it says, Miascarada has a sleek ninja magician aesthetic that aligns with traditional cool designs, but Quaquaval embraces a more flamboyant, dancer-inspired style, which isn't as universally appreciated in gaming communities. Some players might just prefer edgy, mysterious designs over bright, showy ones. Now is that other video about this misogyny maybe making some kind of surprising semblance of sense. Now I have to say, I don't think it's misogyny per se, or at least not intentionally, if that makes any sort of sense. I think we all have preferences, and sometimes societies are made up in a particular way. And in the case of young boys, they do typically go for the cool, flashy, fire types, burn things, yeah. But isn't that something that, as a society, we sort of push on them in the first place? Because I never had a particular view one way or the other for anything like that. I didn't automatically go to flowers. In fact, I was buying, well, I wasn't buying them, but I was playing with action men instead of Barbie dolls. Something obviously happened in my childhood that didn't make me go, oh my god, I just want flowery creatures. And yet still my choices and my preferences don't always align with what I guess the male side of the gaming spaces typically prefer, which kind of interesting since I've been playing video games and Pokemon literally since I was 0 years old. It did also have this fourth point, the internet's bias towards certain design archetypes. So let's be real, people tend to favor edgy or cool Pokemon more over flamboyant or playful ones. If Quaquaval had a sleek warrior design instead of a dancing performer one, it probably wouldn't get as much criticism. And this sounds like it's probably been taken from Reddit or something, but I have to sort of agree with it. Because I don't think it would have gotten the same level of hate. And even Primarina, or even Inteleon, for different reasons, I don't think this particular Pokemon would have had it if it looked like some badass duck, elegant duck, or something. But I think that's exactly why I love that Pokemon, because it sort of goes from the chillax in loving himself Quaxley fully into I don't care what you think, you know? And then we full on samba dance every second of the day. And that is beautiful. So ChatGPT says the humanoid argument is kind of weak when both have similar body structures. A lot of it boils down to personal taste. Some love the Quack's energy while others wanted something different. But hey, if you're a Team Quack, keep repping it. The duck's a legend. Well, I agree. Clearly, other people don't agree with that. And whether that be to do with Chikorita, Quaquaval, or whatever the heck it might be. And just to very quickly take a look at what the percentage is of male to female games or game players, specifically for Pokemon, it does seem to still be predominantly male. I believe Pokemon Go has the highest percentage of female players that they kind of know about, but that's probably just because it's a mobile game, to be completely honest, and I don't consider it really a real Pokemon game, and it just got sold off as well, so rest in peace, Pokemon Go. But then there's also this little poll that happened on Reddit a couple of years ago, and yes, it is Reddit, it's not the whole internet. I think it would be similar if you did this on Twitter, however, and it says, I've seen a lot of polls asking which version everyone is getting, but I'm curious about the ratio of male to females that play Pokemon, and this will be impacted by the general genders that go on Reddit also, and you'll see boy man is 2.8k votes, 911, odd number, is a girl / woman, and then 178 others, whatever that might be. But that's essentially 3 times as many boys / men as there are women and girls, for instance, and then obviously way more than other. So if this is even remotely similar to IRL real life stats and isn't just completely Reddit biased, this obviously shows that despite Pokemon being a very female-orientated sort of game compared to a lot of games out there, it's still very much predominantly men that are playing these games and probably talking about them online, more specifically. And then asking if people pick by type, yes, they do, but it's not just about type. And if you ask specifically, is it boys that pick fire types more often, for instance, then there is a general trend, apparently, where boys tend to pick fire type starters more often, but it's not a strict rule. And yeah, obviously everyone's got their own preferences, but it's saying that the reason fire types might be picked by boys more often is because they look cool, powerful. Maybe they have an inherent want to burn things. I know a female arsonist, actually, so that the anecdotes don't always work, but if this is true on a, a large-scale basis, then they want to look cool, they want to look powerful, they like strength, they like action, and then there's influence in pop culture media, and then edgy or battle-ready designs appeal more. These are all things that it's like men are expected to be these cool, strong, emotionless, edgy kind of guys, and you get the young boys that typically edge towards, the edgy teenage phases. So maybe, as weird as it is, it could actually have something to do with our preferences as to how we were brought up and what is expected of us. But then again, even so, I think even by female standards, I don't know how popular Quaquaval actually is by itself, for instance. I know that plenty of women do like Chikorita, and in fact, fangirl over them all the time. But specifically about Quaquaval, I don't understand what the issue is. And then if the reason we don't like the duck is because it's effeminate, then, well, what's the issue with that? Some might be like, yeah, well, men are supposed to be big and strong. Okay, well, what about all the people out there playing your games that aren't that? It's okay if you're not that and you're a man. It's okay if you're not that and you're a woman. It doesn't actually matter. It's okay if you're, I don't know, some alien. Literally, it does not matter. I don't see why that should influence which design looks okay or looks nice at least. And hating big ass, what? That should be something men like. Anyway, of course, this is all ignoring the straight, actual homophobic stuff I have genuinely seen relating to this character in particular, the gay duck. And it's like, I don't want to play as the gay duck, and then they avoid it for whatever reason. It's like, well, there's nothing in the game that has anything related to gayness with this Pokemon. So I don't really fundamentally understand that either. It's like, maybe they just don't like it for some other reason, and they're calling it the gay duck for that reason. I mean, fine. I mean, it's 2025. Calling something gay isn't even an insult anymore, to be honest. Find a better insult, but I think it is important to remember everyone has their own preferences and no one is ever going to 100% agree on anything, ever. And I don't think it's right to just blame misogyny or people intentionally going out of their way to, like, hate things that women like, but perhaps it is something that we need to consider when we are looking at things that other people like, and you immediately jump on the, oh, that's disgusting, oh, I don't like that hate bandwagon. Why? Because I saw the hate for Quaquaval when Scarlet and Violet released. I could not understand it, even slightly. Like, I've got to think that in all of my years of playing video games, I have never needed to self-insert myself on a Pokemon to want to play it. You know? Why would I be self-inserting myself onto a digital creature? That I shouldn't be able to resonate with a digital creature. I'm literally using it as my lapdog and fighting with it. Like, we're basically doing cockfighting. And you want me to resonate with it? No, this thing's getting taken out by, like, a one-hit KO move. Like, I don't want to resonate with that. I don't want to feel like I'm gonna die. But in all these years of playing these different video games, from my perspective, I've been mostly playing video games. You've got to think most of the main protagonists, main characters are like men, might be robots, might be aliens, and some games have a female lead, but I have never once played a game with a female lead and felt like it was important to me. And that might put me in the minority here, but considering most video games are centered around what men want, what men like, and characters that men can resonate with, I don't resonate with those characters, and it makes no difference to me. And I think it's very recent online internet culture where people say that they really have to resonate with a character or the game is unplayable. I've never, ever understood it. And that was my only real thing that I didn't agree with in that video about this misogynistic stuff. But is it inherently misogyny, or is it just something about the way that we're raised? I think it's probably more likely that. And then maybe there is an inherent difference between different sets of people anyway on how they're raised or things they prefer. I mean, I always wear bright stuff. I wear whatever the heck I want to work, like colors, bright pink, bright blue, bright orange. I don't care. And I don't know, maybe people are more reserved on average and they think they have to cool down, look a bit edgier to be accepted. I don't think that that's true. So maybe that's where my choice of Pokemon comes into it. But to be honest, I just pick birds. If I was a Pokemon trainer, I would just be a bird keeper, unfortunately. That or a mix between bird and dragon. But yeah, I don't know. I had to rep for my boy Quaquaval today because I don't think it's a deserved sort of hate. And before people always jump on me, again, I was at work, people hating on me for picking Chikorita in the new game. Like, game's not even out. We don't even know what the final evolution is going to look like at this stage, and I'm already getting hate for saying that I'm probably going to be picking Chikorita. I tell you what, if they have like a mega Feraligatr that is like the coolest thing you've ever seen in your life, or like a regional form, I mean, not a mega, things could change. Things could change, but it doesn't change my opinion that on a basic starter level right now, I don't think Chikorita is an issue. I think the bigger issue is Tepig, if anything. And even then, I don't think it's an issue. But hey-ho, spaghetti-o. But anyway, I will forever love Quaquaval. It will be my favourite third-tier starter, so the actual final evolution. Probably forever, unless there is another cool-looking bird sort of thing. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Empoleon. Empoleon is another really good one, but Quaquaval, he's got, well, he or she has a spice to him that you don't find really very much in Pokemon, and I absolutely adore that. So, while you may hate Quaquaval or love it yourself, you won't find that hatred here coming from me. I guess the true beauty of the Pokemon franchise is the fact that everyone can have their own favorites. Every Pokemon has someone who is their fan, even like Clink. And then they all have one person that is their biggest fan. And I don't know if Quaquaval is my favorite Pokemon of all time, but certainly probably top 10. And I think that says a lot considering it frequently gets by far the lowest scores on a lot of surveys and votes that I've ever seen. So I say keep repping for your favourite, whoever it might be, unless you're a Charizard stan, in which case pick a different favourite, please.